outbreak of flesh-eating parasites in Central and Northern America has begun spreading through livestock. The New World Screwworm is a parasite. There's a parasitic fly that lays its larvae in open wounds of warm-blooded animals, including humans. Since the last outbreak in the 1970s, the screwworm has been largely kept out of the United States by a mass eradication program. But farmers in Mexico are discovering the larvae moving north and across the border. In Texas, ranchers are warning that the parasites are spreading at an alarming rate.
Tiny, deadly, and spreading. The screwworm fly is a nightmare for American ranchers and farmers who lived through the last outbreak in the 1970s. The parasites lay hundreds of eggs in the open wounds of any warm-blooded creature. Once an infestation takes hold, the only reliable treatment is removing the larva by hand. Left alone, they consume a host from the inside out.
It's horrific what's going to happen if it gets out of hand. It's an issue that will affect every single person in one way or the other, because when you go to the store to get something to eat, you don't get much to eat without farmers and ranchers.
Since 2006, a mass eradication program has kept the screwworm bottled up south of the Darien Gap in Central America. Millions of sterilized flies were bred and dropped over the region every week, interrupting the parasite's breeding cycle. But this biological barrier was breached in 2022. Thousands of infected livestock have now been reported in Mexico, and one woman has been killed. Mexican farmers blame its spread on corruption and poor government controls.
Along the entire border with Guatemala, there's indiscriminate movement of stolen livestock and sick livestock. There are no health controls and no safety measures.
Ranchers across the border in Texas worry the situation could be worse than officials admit.
I want to be optimistic, but you hear the anecdotal reports. So one of the unfortunate realities of our current climate is that there's a lot of distrust with information. And so what we hear from our colleagues across the border is that it's probably moving quicker than is actually being reported.
For now, Washington has halted cattle imports from Mexico and invested millions in ramping up breeding programs of sterilized flies. But the process will take years, and farmers say that's time they don't have.
Sonia Swiger is a leading entomologist with Texas A&M University. She specializes in pests that affect human health and livestock. Welcome to DW. What makes the screwworm fly such a serious threat to animals?
The big issue with it is that this is a fly species that intends to lay its eggs on living animals, and then the larvae that hatch out of those eggs will actually feed on the flesh of those living animals. And if not tended to, it can actually cause harm, if not death, to those animals.
All right. And not just animals, I understand, humans as well. And of course, no one likes the idea of being eaten alive by maggots. What sort of threat are these to humans?
I mean, the threat to humans is not as impacting as it is to our wildlife and the livestock industry. But again, it is a concern, because if humans do have a wound, or if the fly has accessibility, they can lay their eggs in the navel cavities or even the mouth of a human. And that, of course, could be a problem for sure.
And once an infestation starts, how quickly does it spread?
Well, I mean, the animal that gets hit first, so to speak, the eggs are laid on them, those eggs are going to hatch within 10 to 12 hours. And then those larvae are going to start feeding. And then the presence of the larva on that first animal will cause a scent that can attract further flies to come in. So that animal is going to be impacted instantly. And then if that's the first fly in the area, you have to wait for those larvae to grow and the next generation to show up. But if there's multiple flies in the area, you could have other adult females come in and start laying eggs on the other animals that are in close proximity. So it can spread fast or it can spread slow. It just kind of depends on, if it's the first animal that's attacked, or if you have many already that have been attacked.
And how welcoming is the climate in Texas to the screwworm?
Unfortunately, very welcoming, which is one of the reasons it was, eradicated from Texas in the United States many years ago, because it does very well in our climate and it can survive throughout most of the state year round.
So tell us about what went wrong then, because as you say, it was eradicated. Now it looks to be coming back. Why?
Um, there's not really a specific reason as to why. We just know a couple different factors have played a role. I've heard that, we've had some mild winters down in Central America that have allowed that fly to stay alive in higher numbers than normal. A lot of movement of people and humans through the area where we had it eradicated to, which is the Darien Gap in Panama, has also been listed as a concern because there were a lot of people coming through there. And then maybe also a shortage in supply chains and things of that sort. But just kind of a whole lot of things came together at one time, unfortunately, and it's allowed for the spread of the fly again.
And tell us about the way that the fly was eradicated, because it was a lot more sophisticated than just going around killing them, wasn't it?
Yes, I mean, obviously we use that tool still, which is, chemical management of some sort, but it's an integrated pest management approach that is involved with the usage of what we call sterile insects. In this case, the SIT program, which they actually will radiate the males so that they cannot produce any viable sperm that will therefore lead to no viable eggs to be laid when they mate with the wild females. So it is a unique process. It only works with this fly at this time. And one of the reasons is the females only mate once in their lifetime. So if they can get these sterile males into the population and then those wild females will mate with these sterile males, then there'll be no future generations. And that's what we're trying to achieve when we use those flies, is to crash that population internally, in addition to doing management on the animals directly, because you still need to treat the wounds and get rid of the larvae that are present.
Right, good talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us, entomologist Sonia Swiger from Texas A&M University.
Thank you.